Good evening and welcome to the Zoning Board of Adjustments meeting. I'm Mark Lewis, chairperson. I would like to call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. We do have a quorum. It is 4 members and 1 alternate. Today we'll be going through our agenda. Just to let everyone know, we will be going through an agenda once we get to the items. And the agenda we will have a public hearing. Then we will have the purpose of the hearing. We will have a staff report. Then we will have an applicant presentation. After that presentation, we will have persons wishing to speak for or against. And then we will have staff and applicant discussion, and then we will come to consideration and possible action. So the first order of business will be for us for approval of minutes. Is there a motion on the table to approve the minutes from September 4th, 2025?
Make a motion to approve ZBA meeting minutes from September 4th, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, raise your hand. Motion carries 5-0. We'd like to move into our regular agenda. This is a consideration and possible action for VAZ 2025-0392, special exception to allow construction of new structure on a lot with existing nonconformities, variance from permitted size of an accessory structure. This is a request by Brad Kung, applicant on behalf of Timothy S. Anchor, owner, for approval of special exception and a variance as permitted by the Unified Development Code, ordinance number 2000-T, to allow a special exception to allow for construction on a new structure on the same property where nonconformity already exists, section 2.7.3.7, parentheses A, parentheses 4, B, a variance in ordinance with section 2.2.5.2 to allow for the square footage of the accessory structures combined to exceed 5% of the lot area, section 2.5.3.1, parentheses J. This has a general location of 6109 Gardenia Street, Pearland, Texas. Do you have a staff report?
Good evening, board members. My name is Katie Peterson, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm presenting this evening's request. As was just read into the record, this is a request for both a special exception and a variance. So to go over the two requests, the first is the special exceptions to allow for the construction of a new structure on a lot where a nonconformity exists. There is a 1-story metal accessory structure which encroaches within the required 25-foot setback from O'Day Road, with a property that has 2 frontages. The side setback is 25 feet in this zoning district, and in this case, the existing structure sits approximately 20.9 feet from the road. So it is about a 4-foot and change deficit of that setback that is a requirement. The second portion of that special exception is that the total area of accessory structures without the addition of the proposed structure exceeds 5% of the total lot area. For properties that are under 1 acre in size in residentially zoned districts, the requirement for, I'm skipping ahead a little bit in my presentation here, the allowed square footage of an accessory structure is either 50% of the primary structure's livable square footage or 5% of the total lot area. In this case, the 5% of the total lot area is the greater of those two numbers, and so that is the one which we are using in our calculations. The second request for tonight is the variance, and that is to allow the proposed accessory structure, which is proposed at 1,974 square feet, to exceed the permitted 5% total area by 11.6% of the lot area, which would mean the total area of the total percentage of the lot that the accessory structures would cover is a total of 16.6% of the total lot area. Prior to this evening's presentation, we did receive one written public comment in opposition of the request. They had concerns with flooding in the area. It was from a neighboring property. They had concerns about flooding in the area and the use of the property for storage of more than is permitted by our ordinance. That public comment was emailed to you all earlier today so that you have the full written comment. This property is located in the Garden O'Day mixed-use zoning district. You can see it outlined in red there. It abuts an R1 zoned district. So both the Garden O'Day mixed-use and the R1 zoning district have the same requirements for those accessory structure standards. This is the future land use map. It is identified on the future land use map as residential estate, established residential estate. And then the aerial of the site. So you can see the primary structure here there's a garage structure here. This is the one-story metal building, and then this is a previous structure that is to be replaced with the proposed structure, which is subject of tonight's application. This is Gardenia Street and O'Day Road, just to get your bearings. All of the properties in the surrounding area are single-family residential in use. Quick history of the site. The site was developed with a residential structure and a detached garage in 1983, according to the county records. And then additional accessory structures were added to the site in 1993. In 1995, it was annexed into the city, and additional covered space was added to that residential primary structure and detached garage. So that was additional roof area, not necessarily additional enclosed space. In 2017, additional covered space was again added to the residential structure and detached garage. And then in 2024, the property was platted as the Jordan Addition. So it has been platted. Here's the site plan that we were looking at just a few moments ago, where I explained that the primary structure is the 1632 square feet, and the overall lot is 39,765 square feet. So when you take 5% of the lot area, that's 1,986 square feet that could be covered with accessory structures for this property. That is the larger by a substantial amount of the two calculations. I've broken down the accessory structures that are on the site, including the proposed, and color-coded them here on the site plan so that you can kind of see where those structures are and what is being proposed. So the one-story metal building here outlined in blue is the one that sits 8 feet from the property line, 20.9 feet from the property line. This property line here is where that 25-foot setback is pulled from, so it's sitting slightly inside of that setback. And then the square footages of the accessory structures, which are the purple and the blue, are what comes up to that 11.6% of the total lot area. And when the proposed structure, which is 1,974 square feet or 4.97% of the lot area, is added onto this, you get a total of accessory structures with 6,606 square feet, and that comes out to be 16.6% of the total lot area. So that's this area. I would like to throw out that my red box around this is off by just a little bit. So where you see the pink, that actually would not be part of the accessory structure. It would be pulled back to where that white, the black line is adjacent to the white here. So I'm sorry, my overlay is not quite perfect here. These are just images of the site. So the first is from Gardenia, where you can see this is the primary structure and the garage. It is attached by a breezeway, which you can kind of see. There's the green, it looks like fencing here. That's where that breezeway is. This is still considered to be an attached accessory structure. So the roof line makes it one building by building code, but by zoning regulation, it is still a detached accessory structure since it does not share a common wall. And then you can see the non-conforming structure that we were speaking of. This is it from the front off Gardenia. You can see here. And then from O'Day, you can see this is the rear of it. So the front is where my mouse is on the screen, and then this is the rear of the property. The proposed structure would be approximately where my mouse is, but on the inside portion of the lot. So it would be set further from the street than where my mouse is. So this is where that picture was taken from, is over here. This is where that proposed structure is. These are photos that were provided by the applicant of the former structure that was in that location that is going to be replaced with the new structure. And some additional photos of that. So it was kind of a conglomerate of a few masses into one structure previously. And then this is the form of the proposed structure to replace. In reviewing the criteria for a special exception, it needs to meet one of the criteria found in section 2737B of our Unified Development Code. In this case, it meets criteria 6, which is to allow a building permit for the expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use that is not in compliance, as long as it will not adversely impact the water, wastewater, drainage, street transportation systems, and is in accord with all city codes and applicable comprehensive plan policies. In this case, the use of an accessory structure for storage is not a non-conforming use. So it is the size of the structure and that the site has non-conformities. So it does meet this requirement. When a building permit comes in, all of the drainage that would need to be associated with the site would need to come into compliance with that building permit. So if there are any challenges with how the property is drained, they would need to be addressed during this permit review. For the second request, which is the variance request, the review criteria are found in section 2252D of our Unified Development Code. And in this case, the staff finds that it meets 2 of the 8 criteria and may meet the 7th criteria here. It is not meeting 5 of the review criteria. I've gone into detail in the staff report as to how those are being or not being met. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, but for the purpose of this, the granting of the application would not necessarily be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, and granting this variance would not have the effect of preventing the orderly use and enjoyment of other land in the area in accordance with our Unified Development Code. However, there are no special circumstances surrounding this property that differ from those in the surrounding area, and the hardship does or would affect all other properties if something were proposed on the site. So staff has found that there's not a substantial hardship for criteria 1, 2, 3, 6, and 8. And this is a summary of essentially what I just spoke to you with the other slides. However, with request 1, staff does find that it meets one of the criteria for a special exception. And for request 2, staff finds that it meets 2 of the 8 and may meet 1 additional criteria. However, the regulations are consistent across all residentially zoned districts under 1 acre for the size and quantity of accessory units which may be proposed on the site. So with that, staff recommends approval of the requested special exception to allow for the construction of a new structure on a site with an existing nonconformity. However, staff is unable to recommend approval of the requested variance to allow for the construction of an accessory structure which exceeds the permitted lot coverage for accessory structures. Real quick, it just should be noted with the review of this application, should the Board of Zoning Appeals find that adjustment find that the special exception is approvable, but the variance is not, or vice versa, they could not move forward with a building permit for the request that they are proposing, because in this case, the accessory structures on the site exceed the square footage without the addition of the new structure, and the structure must have a special exception granted since there are nonconformities on the site in order to allow for it to take place. So if the variance was approved and the special exception denied, the application could not move forward, and if the special exception is approved and the variance denied, again, that permit could not move forward as currently proposed since the existing structures do exceed the permitted square footage on the site. that ends staff's report.
Thank you so much. We would like to move into an applicant presentation. Is there someone that would like to speak? If we would go to the podium and state your name and address for us, sir. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brad Kuhn, and my address is 3009 Green Tea, Pearland, Texas, 77581.
Yes, sir. Go ahead and proceed.
So we are working with staff for quite a while now, since 11/6 of 2023, to try to replace these old dilapidated structures that they had in the back of their property. And we were all the hoops to get to this point, and we're here to just answer questions, and I think the staff report provides everything we kind of know, and willing to entertain additional drainage or things that need to take care of any concerns that may come up.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any persons wishing to speak for or against? And I have the yellow cards here, and I'm just going to start with, since I have the cards, I can just start with Robert Yo. And sir, you have 3 minutes to speak. And next will be Miss Jennifer Aker. And we'll go with those two first, and then we'll keep going from there, if that's okay. Yeah, you can stand right there. You can sit too, whatever you want to do. Okay. Yes, sir. It gets your name and address for us, sir.
Robert Yo, Y-E-O, 6221 Gardenia Street, Pearland, Texas, 77581, down the street from this property. In favor of replacing the dilapidated structures that were actually harmful in several arenas after Burrell. The property footprint meets obviously the existing structures that were already there. I have one question though, for the purple area in the garage, is that including a carport for roof line? Is that carport's no longer there? Just a question.
The area which has been included in the square footage calculation is that which is shown on the site plan, and what is shown on the site plan does include roof structure over the carport area.
Okay, that's no longer there. I don't know if you need to recalculate, but in favor of supporting, making a neighborhood nicer with newer buildings that were already there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Anker? And next after her would be Timothy Anker.
Hi, thanks y'all for having us. I'm Jennifer Jordan Aker. I moved into this property when I was 10 years old, and my dad has built all those old structures back there.
Excuse me, ma'am, would you state your address for us?
4539 Bel Air Boulevard, Bel Air, Texas. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
And so they're all old and they mean a lot, and we didn't want to tear them down, but Beryl helped. And so we're really hoping to dedicate this last structure to my dad, who has since passed. But this, I'm glad Rob mentioned it, this carport, that purple piece, was also damaged in Beryl, so we had to tear it down as well. Just extra damage to Beryl, so we only want to better the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. After Timothy will be Don Jordan. Would you state your name and address for us, Mr.
Thank you.
Timothy?
Thank you. Timothy Akers, 6109 Gardenia Street, Pearland, 77581. Jennifer and I are the owners of the property, and like she said, she grew up here for decades, and after her parents got elderly and passed away, we purchased the property and have sort of made it our home away from home, and spend a lot of time here. And we had some classic cars, keepsakes, dressers, other family heirlooms, clothing in some of those structures outlined in red out in the back. And as previously noted, these were built by her dad back when it was Pearland Township, before, I don't know that he had any permits to build any of this stuff back in the day, which is probably why it's too close to O'Day Road. And isn't 25 feet or whatever the requirements were. And not that I think there should be any exceptions given for, grandfathering in old structures, but the structures outlined in red, they were an eyesore. They were rusty and, sorry, is it okay? Maybe. I just think that the structures were not in good condition and, as mentioned, probably dangerous. After Beryl, the roofs were blowing off and something had to be done. So we still have all of the same items that we'd like to keep inside. And we thought that this is a nice way of replacing a terrible structure on the back of the property. So that's all I got. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Don, and then Brad Kong. Oh, Brad, you already spoke. Okay.
Good evening. Appreciate the time to speak for it. I'm Don Jordan, 12514 Woody Road, 77581. It was my brother's home, and Jennifer's my niece. And the buildings they're replacing, that with their age and their condition, especially after Burl, certainly removing some eyesores from the area. And if you look at some of the existing pictures of what Tim and Jennifer have done since they've done it, that's what they're further trying to do. And I understand that there are trying to regulate the amount of square footage on the lot, but if he rebuilt the existing structures as is, he still has that kind of footprint on that property. He's trying to put up a new building that enhances the site, and I believe it would be a good deal. As Pearland has experienced over the years, people keep rebuilding mobile homes in areas that people probably don't want the mobile homes. That's an option, but they're trying to put something up new and nice, because the cars that were stored in those buildings, they still have and still have to put them somewhere. That's all I have. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, sir. If you have any other persons wishing to speak for or against proposal, we would like to move into our staff and applicant discussion. Any questions or comments, board, to the staff or applicant?
A question for the staff. The new building's 1,974 square feet, I think. What's the footprint of the existing structure? If we know.
The previous structure, according to the report according to the site plan provided, is 194 square feet larger than that. So it was, I could do math faster than I could find it in my own report. I apologize. Let me do math.
Well, that's okay. My question, I was trying to learn if this is a substantially larger structure, or pretty consistent with what's the existing structure footprint is.
I'm sorry, but
It was
that's not correct.
2,168 square feet, and what is being proposed is 1,974 square feet. So the proposed new structure is a reduction of 194 square feet in impervious surface.
Any other questions, comments? Board, to the staff, to the applicant?
Mr. Chair, while I was doing math, while I cannot confirm the exact amount of reducing by that carport based on the information I have available to me, if that carport has been removed and that divides that attached garage structure in half, it would be 616 square feet, which would make the math on this slide, instead of 3% of the lot, that attached purple area would be 1.5%, and this total would be brought down to 15.1% of the lot. So it still is in excess of the 5%, obviously. However, it does bring that down to 15.1% of the lot if my math of dividing by 2
Gotcha.
is close.
I have a clarification question for Mr. Khan. So your property is all this property, and we're just replacing what's already there, trying to bring a new structure. Is that what we're saying?
Yes, sir.
But we're trying to make sure that since we have a non-conformity item that's already there, this is why we're here, to make sure that the process is done correctly and that your neighbors and everyone else is okay with this.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board to the staff or the applicant? Okay, we'd like to move into consideration and possible action. Would you place we're gonna read the special exception as one motion, and then we're gonna read the variance as one motion. Is that okay from the board? Okay. Jerry, would you read the first motion for special exception?
Make a motion to approve request 1 of variance 2025-0392 as presented.
It's been motioned. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, raise your hand. Motion carries 5-0. Don, would you read the variance, please?
Variance application 2025-0392, request number 2 for variance to allow accessory structures to exceed 5% of the lot area. The motion is to approve as presented.
It's been motioned. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
It's been motioned and second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, raise your hand. Motion carries 5-0. This concludes the Zoning Board of Adjustments meeting for October 2025.
Sure, hold on. Before you tap out, there is a discussion item at the end, so let's not close out yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. So we will continue with our discussion items for the meeting. So we have not concluded. Let's see, Zoning Board of Adjustments submittal calendar and the planning submittal calendars. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. On the screen, you can see our 2026 submittal schedule for the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Generally, our meetings are remaining the same, with the meetings being the first Thursday of each month. However, January, April, and July, it is actually the second Thursday of the month due to holidays. If there are any questions on this calendar, happy to answer them.
You said January?
April and July, it's the second Thursday. And this is due to holidays.
Okay.
And again, this is just a discussion item, so that way y'all are aware of the upcoming meetings and can go on ahead and put them on your calendar.
Yeah, thank you. Sometimes that makes good. Thank you. Oh. So January's meeting will be?
On the 8th, as we will not be open on the 1st.
8. So look over here, right here. April and July. And July will be July 9th. Any other discussion items or discussion? This concludes the Zoning Board of Adjustments meeting at 6:30 p.m.